Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for the latest podcast episode covering all things Metropolitans. I'm Wardy, that is Anthony Recker, that is Joe Serralo, and we have a lot to get into today because just in a couple hours at the time of recording this, the Mets start their biggest series yet of the 2023 calendar season, facing off against their arch rivals in the Atlanta Braves. So we're going to be previewing and really sharing the keys to victory should the Mets perform well in this matchup in this 4-game set. But before that, we're going to get in on that Nats series, which wasn't as pretty as what we were hoping as Mets fans, and a key update on Justin Verlander that we're about to start with. But appreciate everyone here in the live chat or for people on replay. I already see Braves fans in the live chat. So regardless, happy to have you guys all in here as long as you're being civil. If not, then, I'm going to say some expletives. I feel like I have to. But we got a lot to get into. Rec, Joe, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great, man. Trying to get Verlander on my TV right now, so that'll be a good sign when he's back with us in a week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's just hop right in on the Justin Verlander front. If you guys are following along, like I know that every diehard fan is, you're seeing the Rumble Ponies have Justin Verlander on the bump right now. And Rec, what is his stat line looking like?
As far as last I saw, 3 innings, I think 1 hit and 39 pitches was the total. So been cruising for the most part. Really quick first inning, 3 flyouts, I believe. Might have like 1-2 punchies, something like that.
2 punchies, 2 hits is what I'm seeing right now.
Yep, there you go.
And
so, Rec,
go ahead.
When you get a guy like Verlander back, obviously he's missed the first month of the season. I mean, what's that going to do? Obviously, we know what he can do every 5th day on the mound, but what's that going to do for the clubhouse?
Well, I think it's big right now just because of the lack of consistency they've had just with their starting rotation. And I mean that in every way, health, performance, everything. I mean, it's just that they've had like a rotation of guys coming in. Obviously, Buto's about to make his 3rd start. So we're just kind of seeing this, and we've had some underperformance at times, a lot from David Peterson. McGill's had a couple of starts that didn't look as good as the first few. Cookie's gone for a little while now. Obviously, Quintana won't be back for a while. Scherzer with the suspension, and even before the suspension, wasn't like the Scherzer that we thought or hoped we'd have right away. So I think it's going to be nice, having that steadying presence, a guy who won the Cy Young last year in the AL, hopefully, can come out of the chute firing and just looking like the JV that they need. That said, I would imagine it might take him a couple of outings to really get his feet underneath him, especially if he's only making 1 minor league start, just because it's been a while since he's toed the rubber.
Yeah. Well, he'll have a 2nd minor league start. They play the Tigers next week. So
okay.
Yeah, yes. 2 minor league lineups on the
That's my bad.
It's fitting that his first start. I said this last episode, but I just love that his Mets debut is back in Detroit. No better place for him to be comfortable his first time on the bump in a Mets uniform than being where he was for a good portion of his career. But, good news on the JV front. We're excited to see him back, but that isn't what tonight's topics are for the most part here before we get ready for this Braves series. So let's just dive right in because we just witnessed what was a very frustrating series against the Nationals. And I'm going to start by just sharing some raw thoughts. Josiah Gray in Game 1 had his sharpest stuff that I feel like we've seen against the Mets in his young career. And I have to give him tip of the cap a little bit. The Mets were flat coming off their West Coast trip. Okay, a little bit justified, even though it was still frustrating. Then you get into night 2, Mackenzie Gore, who I was not confident about at all, facing the Mets in the sense of the Mets doing well, because the Mets against any competent southpaw that is of younger age as well usually carves them up. And that's exactly what he did. 10 punchies on the Mets. They only had 4 hits. They looked absolutely anemic with their offense. But then thankfully yesterday, the Mets in what was a roller coaster 9-8 win to salvage the series, led by Brett Beatty having his first 3-for-3 game, his first home run of the season. Francisco Lindor being an extra base hits machine. He's batting a low average right now this year, but whenever he's hitting the baseball, he's hitting at least in the gap where he's hitting a bomb, which is nice. And then Alonso. So you can see that this offense, when Alonso and Lindor are doing what they're supposed to, we're getting the production. But when they aren't, like what we saw in the first 2 games and that 4-game losing streak overall, it's continuing to be a huge hole for this team. So, Joe, starting with you, what is your biggest takeaway from the Mets when he won a 3 against the Nationals? What did you like, if anything, and certainly what didn't you like?
I'm disappointed with the Mets. I'm disappointed with the team's performance, losing 4 straight, first time they've done that under Buck, and losing 4 straight to just really not good teams. The San Francisco Giants. I mean, yesterday I was watching that Giants game closely because you guys know I had some action on Logan Webb, and I was going back and forth between, do I go with Logan Webb's strikeout prop or do I take the Giants to win? And the Giants could do nothing against Miles Michaelis. Like, they're not a good team. They're a lefty-heavy lineup. I think they had 7 out of 9 hitters were lefties in that lineup yesterday. Michaelis has like a 340 opponent batting average to lefties this year, and they could do nothing. They're not a good team. Losing the last 2 there really hurt, and then losing 2 in a row to the Nationals, who they're an interesting team. Bottom of the standings in the National League. I think only Colorado's worse. But despite, and look, I've got my gripes with Buck and how he's handled the bullpen lately, not using Robertson or Ottavino and Sanfran yesterday, leaving Tommy Hunter in there too long. I'm not really the biggest Brooks Raley fan right now, although I understand the need to use him as the lone lefty in the bullpen. I've got some gripes with Buck at the moment. First time in over a year, I could say that. But Buck had a good point. The Nationals are not a bad team. And people were killing him on Twitter for saying this, that they're going to be a threat for a while, for years to come. The Nationals have a lot of good young bats. They have the lowest strikeout rate in baseball. It doesn't necessarily equate to wins, but they put the ball in play. They put together good at-bats. They've got some talented pitching. I mean, Mackenzie Gore is a stud. Josiah Gray is actually, I think he got shelled opening day, and since then he's had a really good year. They just hadn't scored for him. I don't think they scored a single run for him until
they didn't until
Tuesday
that
night's
game against the Mets. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, they've got a couple pieces in the rotation. They've got a pesky lineup. That kid that they brought in Wednesday night to put the Mets away out of the bullpen, I can't remember his name. They brought the same guy in to face Trout and Ohtani in a win against the Angels, and he just blew them away. Like, they've got pieces here and there that show glimpses of talent, and that the fact that the Nationals can be around and they can be kind of a thorn in your side for years to come. Like C.J. Abrams, we know, is a certified stud. They're not a terrible team. That said, you're coming home. You got to win 2 out of 3. That's on the Mets. I'm disappointed there.
Rec,
you made some faces. Do you think the Nationals are just ass, or like what?
They have a couple of guys. Like, I'll agree with you. Like, they have 2 starting pitchers right now in Gray and Gore that can at least put up zeros, right? The bullpen is pretty makeshift. They have 1 or 2 guys in the back end that can throw, which, I mean, any big league team at this point should. And the lineup, I don't know, man. It doesn't do it for me. I haven't seen enough out of them to really say that any of them are going to be long-term, like, all-stars or anything like that. So when I talk about them as a team, I don't consider them very good at all. They have a couple of talented players, but it's the big leagues. Every team should have a couple of talented players, aside from, I guess the suspect 1 or 2 teams out there that don't seem to be trying. That said, they made some deals the last couple of years. They traded away some players. They should have some young studs. They have some guys who can play, but I wouldn't put them anywhere near like I consider the Marlins kind of like that pesky team that's got some guys who can. They have more of a full team where they can put pitchers out there. They have guys who can hit the ball to the ballpark, and they have guys in the bullpen that can put you away. So I consider that a little bit more of like that pesky team that could be around. The Nationals, no. Like, the Nationals are the bottom of the NL East, and it's not like the AL East where the bottom is Boston right now, who's actually playing pretty well. This is the NL East, and the Nationals are not very good. Outside of, I guess, the Rockies and the Reds, maybe. Like,
since he's got a better record, they just swept Texas.
What's that?
Since he has a better record, they just swept the Rangers.
Well, since he actually has even better starting pitching, like, they've got Hunter Green, is very good. Lodolo, very good. Ashcraft, I love, and I've loved for a couple of years. So like, even that team is probably better than the Nationals. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, these Nationals are probably the 2nd, 3rd worst team in the National League. We should not be talking about, like the Mets dropping 2 of them and the manager saying, well, they're a decent team. I don't agree with that. They're a big league team, so you can't take them for granted. But right now, the Mets aren't playing well. That's what it comes down to. This lineup is relying on Pete and Lindor again. We talked about this last episode. Finally, look, Beatty came through. Alvarez had a good game, looked good at the plate. Nimmo has been looking good this year. But for the most part, when it comes to driving and runs, and again, yesterday, it was still Pete and Lindor, even though, Beatty had the homer, who drove in a majority of the runs. So it's really coming down this lineup to those 2 again. And you're just really going to need to see some of these other guys step up in order for them to get consistent wins. Outside of that, I would go as far as saying the rotation. We've talked about it. Look, with injuries and inconsistency, it just hasn't been the same. And so from that perspective, you're going to run into playing an opponent like the Nationals and have trouble because they can put the ball in play, but that does not mean that they're a good team. And that's where I say the Mets just need to start playing better. And then the bullpen, I would say, has for the most part, it's been okay. But even back there, I mean, they've got some guys in the back end. Well, shouldn't say the back end of the bullpen that have been used in the back end of the bullpen that just haven't, performed as well as you'd like. And then, of course, as you touched on, there's been some management of the bullpen that's been a little bit head scratching. I mean, putting Tommy Hunter back out there in the 8th yesterday was one of those things. So I say going forward, this team just needs to play better, period.
Yeah, Joe, I know you have a comment to make on those pesky Marlins here in a second, but before we get there, I just have to say I agree with you, Rec. I don't look at this Nationals team anything more than still the worst in the NL East to begin with and one of the worst in baseball. They have those pieces. Gore is honestly, again, my biggest worry. When the Soto trade happened last year, I was like, wow, this is going to be a guy that's going to be a pain in the ass for this Mets team because they still, their kryptonite is still those young, promising southpaws until proven otherwise. They just have yet to rectify that. And then Keeper Ruiz, who I highlighted in our series preview, has done very well against the Mets since being acquired in that Dodgers trade a year and a half ago. And he had some really nice big hits, multi-hit games against the Mets in this matchup as well. But offensively, I was very happy with the breakout we saw yesterday, even after giving up that deflating home run to CJ Abrams, of all guys, who's not known for his power, obviously. Thankfully, the offense said, we know we're better than the Nationals, and we're going to come out, we're going to barrel baseballs and get in there. Shout out to Jeff McHits, more like McTriples, for getting that go-ahead RBI triple to give the Mets that 9-8 lead. But Joe, I got to pan it back to you for a second, because these pesky Marlins, what about these Marlins?
I don't know who I hate more right now, the Marlins or the Braves. I mean, because it's so fitting that the Braves would just do anything they can to screw a Mets fan over. I mean, yesterday, great.
By the way, we have a lot of Braves fans today in the chat.
I know.
Like a lot.
And I have a good amount of Braves followers from last season. They get amped.
Wardy, would you say yesterday might have been my best MLB betting day of the year?
Either best or very close to, yeah.
6-2 on my 8 bets, and the only 2 that I lose are a same-game parlay in Tampa that had Tampa Bay money line and McClanahan to go 6 or more strikeouts. Finished with 5 strikeouts because Kevin Cash doesn't know how to manage a rotation. Pulls him 73 pitches, 5 innings. Pulls him. Like, what is this? Blake Snell in the World
Blake
Series
Snell
all over him? Yeah. Kevin Cash made me Joey Cashless. Freaking asshole. And then, so McClanahan 1 strikeout short of the same-game parlay because he only threw 73 pitches. And then Atlanta, money line, 4-0 lead, 1 out in the 9th inning. 4-0 lead, 1 out in the 9th inning. And the goddamn pesky Marlins win the game.
Put up a 5 spot. AJ Minter.
Raisel Iglesias, man. They're missing him. He's coming back soon.
Put on AJ Minter this weekend, please.
Yeah, give me AJ Minter.
I think Iglesias is supposed to be back this weekend. So,
of course he is. Of course he is. Why wouldn't he be back this weekend? All right, so I don't want to harp on much more on this National Series. Again, it was a big disappointment for sure. Just happy the Mets at least salvaged the win, so they have some type of upside, positivity heading into this Braves matchup.
Can I give a quick Verlander update?
Please.
He just threw the 4th. It was probably his best inning. Faced 4 batters because the leadoff guy hit a routine grounder to second that got botched. Worst error I've ever seen. And then next 3 guys, 2 strikeouts and a weak pop-up foul territory to third base. Look, I mean, I know it's AA, but looked really sharp. Yeah. So 4 Ks through 4 innings right now.
Love that. Love to hear the positive updates on JV. But now let's head into our second ever segment that we've done on the channel here on the podcast, a Minutemen. Last episode, we talked solely on the rotation. I see donations. I'll get to them towards the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for them. I appreciate that. But let's do the Minutemen segment, guys. But this time, let's talk about this current Mets lineup. I want to know, in one word, again, no sentences, just one word is what I want to hear from you guys. How are you feeling about these Mets batters? So, Rec, Joe, you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. One word to describe Brandon Nimmo right now.
Pulse. He's the pulse of the lineup.
Pulse. Okay. Then I'll just take that and go frisky.
Frisky. Starling Marte.
Late. He's late on everything he's swinging at.
Cheater? Oh, what he's doing right now. Oh, okay.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Wow, Rec.
What? Sorry. Never going to let it go.
I can tell.
How about that? That's what I think about Starling Marte.
It's been bad lately.
Francisco,
I've never been a fan. Never.
I
Not
love
since-
him. I really, really love him, but he's been bad lately.
Francisco Lindor.
Power. I mean, everything he's hitting, he's slugging the crap out of the ball.
Money. I mean, when they've needed him, he's been there. He's done what he's needed to do. I'd like to see him make more contact, but he's been money. I mean, and he's making the money, so he's money.
Alonso.
Back. The dude is so back. All I needed to see was that Oppo double last night. He's like David Wright. When he's back, he's hitting the ball with power the other way. Pete's back.
I mean, it's not one word, but right now he's the best all-around hitter on this team. Like, you could say McNeil all you want. Great. He puts the ball in play. Nimmo, great. But Pete hits the ball all over the ballpark. When they need him to put the ball in play, he actually does. Like, he's not striking out that much. And I don't know, man. There's something about him. He's made so many adjustments throughout his career, and he's very good at it. He's become a really good all-around hitter.
You see the pain on Wardy's face, Rec, by the way, because he's like, I said one word. I said one word.
I don't even care. I
Called
can't do one
Minutemen. I
word.
should have changed it to 5 Minute Men. All right, McNeil.
Scorching. He's hitting over 400 the last, 2 weeks.
Squirrely.
Squirrely. Love it.
Squirrely.
Beautiful. That's the
He's
best
not
one.
frisky. He's squirrely.
He is squirrely.
Yeah.
Vogelback. Hoagie. Hoagie Bogey.
Statue. I've seen the guy just stare at so many pitches right down the middle this year.
He likes to take a lot. Inconsistent. He has these games where he's locked in and it looks like everything he swings at, he's mashing. And then some games, to Joe's point, he's taking and swinging and missing, and it's odd.
Fam.
Inconsistent. Some games he's a spark. Other games he's just like a walking strikeout.
Yeah, I mean, it's his usual. Like, that's him. So
Fam
I'll
is
just
him.
call it usual. Yeah.
Usual. Okay. Canna.
Backup. He's playing his way into a backup outfielder role.
He's been disappointing for me. Just his entire tenure so far. This year, last year, I'd like to see more power for sure.
I got to talk with you another episode about Canna because I thought that he had a really strong season last year for the Mets and kind of played a little bit above expectation with the power.
No.
Did he have 13 homers?
Yeah. Go look at his. He had some previous seasons where he's hit 20-some in very limited number of at bats. I expected him to come in, get maybe 400 ABs and hit 20, 25. And
I was very happy with Canna last year through the middle of August. Last 6 weeks, he was nowhere to be found. Through the middle of August, I was like, he's a really good 7-hitter.
he puts together great ABs,
Yeah.
but if you don't have the power to go along with that it can only get you so far. And that's where I think Joe backup is it's not a terrible.
Right now, I mean, and I love the guy. It actually hurts me to say that.
Agreed.
I really like him.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Yeah, and I think last year too, I think he had his 13 homers came through the middle of August. So he was on pace to hit 17, 18. And then just the last 6 weeks
Fell off.
so far this year, he's been nowhere to be found.
Brett the Met.
Starter. Every damn day. Starter.
Stud. He's a
Him.
stud, man. He really is. He bat to ball skills, got some pop, looks fine defensively. I mean, you see here and there that maybe not quite polished, but still so young. He's good, man. Stud.
Love that. Luis Guillorme.
Fielder. It's pretty much all he is a fielder.
Yeah, I think him and Nito, I think their time with this organization is probably coming to a close, unfortunately. I love both of them, but they haven't shown an ability to hit consistently enough to really warrant being there much longer, especially as they're starting to near, well, not near, but they're getting those arbitration type numbers now.
Yeah, is there anything to add with Nito then or no?
Automatic out.
Are you going to say the same for Alvarez?
No, I was gonna say troll.
He is a troll. That's actually
He
true.
looks like a troll.
Yeah, El Troll's his nickname.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, El Troll's his nickname. It's
El
fitting.
troll.
Kind of looks like
Gotta roll-
Shrek.
gotta
I
roll
see
that
it.
R.
All right. Well, all right, guys. That's the lineup. So Minutemen, more like 10 Minutemen. Now let's get into the Braves preview.
Well, when you
now.
do
The whole, like,
12 hitters, I mean, what do
Yeah,
you-
I mean, you said lineup. I thought we were doing 9. Then you said Tommy Pham. I was like, oh, we're doing every lineup possible.
I kind of felt bad for not having Pham or Guillorme in there, considering that they are starting at
They're not
least
watching
one
the show.
game
You
in
don't
the
have to
series.
feel bad.
That's okay.
Should feel bad for Eddie. He might be watching the show. He's a good guy.
We didn't even talk about Eddie. I didn't mention.
I know.
Him. Oh,
Eddie's-
I don't know. I was wondering when he was coming.
He's just such a good guy. Like his post with him and Beatty on the plane.
Wow, I love him. He's so.
He's such a good guy. I want him to do well.
I want to give Eddie credit too, because the last couple times he started out there, he has been hitting. Like he's been able to, at least he hit a home run, then he hit a
was he hitting off Gore the other night?
Did he? Or maybe I feel like he did. No? He's been doing well in that platoon spot lately. His last couple games, he's been getting an extra base hit or so.
He's a fine backup, but to Recker's point, it's like, with Guillorme's time potentially coming to an end soon, like you can't have so many of those guys. Like obviously they have different roles. Like Guillorme is more of a fielding specialist. Escobar is a switch hitter, gives you some versatility, but like how many below average backup third baseman can you have on a roster?
True.
Like it's the Mets don't really have anyone on the bench, and you might hate me for saying this. The only guy on the bench who really could give this team a spark, maybe Tommy Pham in a pinch hit situation, but LeCastro, like on the base pads at least, like he could give this team a spark. We don't really have any backups who it's like, oh, we're calling in a pinch hitter. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think who's a good example. I'm gonna date myself with this one, but like maybe like an Eric Hinsky type who like we're calling up a pinch hitter who could be a game changer with one swing here. Like the Mets don't have a guy like that on the roster. There's no one on the bench that provides any sort of spark unless Beatty is like not in the starting lineup that day, which he should be every day.
True. And I think that's a nice segue now into this Braves series, right? Because Joe, what are the pitching matchups? What are we looking at?
In just a few hours, we got David Peterson, Max Fried. Fried, a guy who dominated the Mets a lot early in his career. Last year, the Mets beat him a couple times last year. So that game, if Peterson was pitching better, I'd say we have a shot. We'll see where it goes. Tomorrow, Tyler McGill versus our chamomile tea drinking buddy, Spencer Strider. Sunday, Charlie Morton for Atlanta against Jose Buto for the Mets. And then Monday, Elder, the kid, is going for Atlanta. And for the Mets, right now, you might find Kodai Senga listed. But I believe the plan, as was tweeted out last night by a couple beat writers, is that Max Scherzer returns Monday. So Senga or Scherzer Monday would actually be kind of wild if it is Senga. And then Max and JV, both return in Detroit.
That you're not wrong. Yeah, I mean,
should be 2 automatic wins, but you never know.
Should be.
So yeah, Monday a toss up. First 3 games, Peterson, McGill, and Buto against the Braves. Kind of scares me a little bit.
I think that's an understatement on the scaring front. And it pretty much feels inevitable that we're going to get a doubleheader this weekend. The weather isn't looking sharp tonight, but I'm pretty sure they're going to leg it out considering it's a 4-game set. And the Braves aren't back at Citi Field until August, I think, now, after this matchup. So Saturday.
There's almost no shot to get the game in tomorrow. So
yeah, Saturday's a wash. So we're looking at probably a doubleheader on Sunday, but the weather isn't great on Sunday either. So the only thing is that if it's on Monday, then that's not going to benefit anyone because the Mets are going to Detroit right away. And then for the Braves, wherever they're going, I don't know who they have after the Mets here. But aside from the weather being shitty, as it tends to always be on the weekends this time of year, unfortunately, great during the week. And then as soon as the weekend hits, it's going to be a party pooper. But starting off with you, Rec, in this series, especially, looking at the pitching matchups and how they are not completely lopsided, but fairly lopsided. They're definitely in the Braves' favor right now, with the way that we've seen. What am I hearing?
Rick, we got a play date going on? What's up?
On the air, man.
I love it. Would they just get home from school or something?
No, that's the little one. He didn't go down for his nap. So as soon as we're done here, I got to get him down.
Love it.
Oh,
Benadryl works like a charm every time. I'm gonna get people calling CPS in the comments right
Yeah.
now.
David Pearson, who has gone shelled his last couple times out there. Let's not forget, had a very sharp start in Atlanta last year, right up until he got squeezed by the ump on a Dansby Swanson pitch that led to a walk, and then Matt Olson took him deep. I'm not going to lie, I'm fearing Matt Olson tonight specifically because Peterson has not matched up well at all against lefties, competent lefties that we've seen in these last two starts out there, right? So, Rex, starting with you, what is your takeaway on, tonight's matchup specifically, but this series as a whole when you look at what's benefiting the Mets here and what's benefiting the Braves?
Yeah, I think for me, when I look at this series, this Braves pitching staff, especially their starters, their starting rotation, has been really good this year. Morton has been more consistent than he has been over the last couple of years. Strider looks like he's even taken that next step from last year, which is scary. Fried hasn't shown, had the hammy issue and before looked good and after looks good. So nothing's slowing him down. Elder has looked really good. Those are the four we're going to see. And that in itself scares me because this offense is very, very good, particularly against lefties. So Peterson really has a tough task tonight. This has been one of the best left-handed hitting lineups in baseball the last several years. Ozzy Albies is a beast from the right side. Acuna, Riley, you mentioned Olson. He doesn't really have like crazy splits or anything. So it's a really tough lineup for Peterson tonight. Then, throughout the rest of the series, it's just going to be, can the Mets put up runs? And to me, it's going to be more about the bullpen because we know, is Peterson going to go more than 5 or 6? Probably not. McGill, probably not. Buto, definitely not. I think he gets 5 max. And then does Max go Monday? I hope so. And if he does, going to need 7 out of him. Easy. So it's going to be a lot of innings from this bullpen, I think, up until Monday, I should say, with Max. And to me, that's scary because the bullpen hasn't looked great to me, or at least outside of Ottavino and Robertson. They haven't looked great. And so it can be scary, facing this lineup, getting to the end of the game. You're really going to need this lineup, the Mets lineup, to show up more than just Pete and Lindor. Nimmo, like we said, has been good. Beatty needs to be in there every night. I'd like to see Alvarez in there for at least 3 of these games. But yeah, you're going to need contributions up and down. They're going to have to score. They've given up 29 runs in the last 5 games, basically 6 a game. You're going to need to score at least 6 a game against this Braves team to have a shot to win, probably. So just really going to need to see some performances out of them. Right now, I'm not trying to be pessimistic or anything, but I would say if the Mets could split this series, they should be pretty happy with where they're at right now.
Joe?
You're 100% right, man. You look at the pitching matchups, none of them almost are in our favor until Monday. So, yeah, a split I'd be very content with. You look at tonight, Peterson specifically, and his splits are, they're not great, right? He's faced 29 lefties this year, or 28 lefties, given up 9 hits. So it's a 310 average. Righty's hitting 312 off him. Pretty identical. His OBA is over 300 anyway you slice it. It's bad. Giving up 7 home runs already. He was always a bit prone to the long ball. 7 home runs, 4 of them to lefties. 3 of them were to lefties that game I was at against the Dodgers. Muncy had that one that we were laughing about. The lights went off before the ball landed. And Freddie Freeman had 2 of his own. So Peterson, got to keep the ball in the park. I just looked up Matt Olson's season. He's actually only hitting $190 against lefties with 0 of his 7 home runs. So Olson kind of struggling versus lefties. Knock on wood,
damn it.
We'll see what happens, but Peterson's got to locate. When we did Minutemen last episode, I said, my word for Peterson was flat because he's never a high velo guy, even though he's 6'6". He was never really pumping it, more than 95, 96 when he's a starter. As a reliever, we saw him hit 97. But as a starter, the best you're going to get out of him is 94. So he relied on the cutter, the sinker, that combination, and obviously, Rec, which you pointed out, his sweeping slider as his, top plus pitch. We need that slider. If you're going to get Olson out, you need to locate that. You need to get ahead of the count and then locate the slider. So we'll see what happens with Peterson tonight. Got to keep the ball in the ballpark. It would be really nice for McGill to right the ship. He's been nails at home. Maybe we could just chalk it up to struggling on the West Coast a bit. Comes back home, settles in. But him going up against Strider worries me. I'd rather him against Morton, who the Mets have really handled well. Yeah, we'll see. We crushed Morton, I feel like, the last 2 seasons. Strider, with the exception of that one.
We crushed Morton until the last time he faced the Mets, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes,
Didn't he
that
just
last
absolutely
series.
carve them up?
Yeah, the last series he did, but we crushed him like 3 times last year. Strider carved us up every start except the one where he said it was lucky.
And that was at home for the Mets.
Right. Fried. I hate to say this because we talk about the Mets needing to change their offensive approach and that they need more power. The only way I see the Mets having a successful series is by doing what they did when they beat Atlanta last year. And that's 25, 30 pitch first innings, working the count, fouling balls off, and getting starters out of there. Because Atlanta's bullpen's a weak spot right now. And I think the only way that the Mets can have an advantage when Atlanta is clearly superior in almost every starting pitching matchup is to get those starters out of there early in a 4-game set. They really need to do what they were doing last year and just work counts, even if you don't put runs on the board early, which you need to do. But even if you don't do it early, just get to the bullpen in a 4-game series. That's the key.
And do it early. And that's what's going to be tough because they have Fried this first game, and he's typically goes a little bit longer than most, obviously.
Yeah. But they did it last year with Fried. They had a 30-pitch first inning against them. So you can do that with him. Strider last start, his pitch count was really low. He was super economical against the Marlins in that no-hit bid. But prior to that, Strider's been a 5 to 6 inning guy. Mm-hmm. So see what you can do. Work some counts. You got to do it. Got to get to that bullpen.
Yeah, and I think that all goes in hand with the keys to the victory in this series, right? Going back to Fried and Strider, these guys, if you can work, especially Strider, I know that he was absolutely a beauty last time he was out there versus the Marlins, had a perfect game going into that 8th inning, right? Or 7th or 8th inning, whatever it was. But he's a guy that, usually gets that pitch count up fast. And that kind of goes in hand with him striking out as many guys as he is because he's always going for that punchy. So if you can get him out there after, say, 5 innings, that would be more than ideal for this Mets team. And with Fried, yes, we saw the Mets hit up on last year. And Fried is a big concern for me just because, again, lefties... you just don't know what you're going to get from this Mets team. And as you emphasized, Joe, you want to get on them early. This Mets team, over their last 17 games now, have not scored a run in the first inning. That's something that also needs to change on getting on top of these pitchers early. If you're going to let them get comfortable with easy 1, 2, 3, a couple punchies, it's not going to take long. Max is already in a groove then, that being in Fried, right? So those are things they need to try to avoid. But to your guys' point, yes, the only logical way we truly see this Mets team winning this series, or hopefully at minimum splitting, which I don't really think any Mets fan would complain about in that situation, is... again, getting that offense. It was so strong throughout the majority of the West Coast trip up until those final 2 games against the Giants. So the Mets, if you look at their rotation all throughout West Coast trip, it wasn't good. Their starters were not giving you consistent quality starts whatsoever, but it was masked by the Mets having this consistent offense, extra base hits galore, and just making things happen against the Dodgers, against the A's, and to start that series, of course, too, against the Giants. So we need to see more of that. That is going to be the recipe to success, no doubt in my mind. And the depth of this lineup stepping up too. Mark Canha has done little to nothing. I would like to see if he can barrel some baseballs, grind out those at-bats. Brett Beatty, I would love to see him start against what we're seeing here in Max Fried. There's no better time. Give him reps against these lefties. He's deserved that, especially after what we saw him again, a 3-for-3 game yesterday, albeit a different type of pitcher he was facing, a right-hander, Trevor Williams, who I just knew he was going to do really well against. Not to get on a tangent, but Williams, low velo, I love that matchup, and it was great to see Beatty do exactly kind of what I was hoping, expecting him to do on that front. But overall, those are the keys to victory, the keys to success for the Mets, I'd say. And if they can split, great. Just don't lose the series. If you drop, if you only win 1 out of 4, we can understand to a degree if, say, the rotation gets shelled. But even with how great this Braves lineup is, this Mets team is still uber talented, and they need to make this be a very competitive series, and that's hopefully what we find ourselves getting. Joe, going back to anything further you'd like to add on this matchup before we get to answering some questions?
I actually just wanted to get to a great question I saw in the chat earlier about Max Fried and the Braves.
Yeah,
and someone said, what are the chances that Atlanta re-signs Fried this offseason?
Thank you so much for the donation, CJ. Appreciate that.
I think that the 2 best pitchers this coming offseason, and it's really interesting, probably Fried, at least on paper right now, Fried and Urias, right? Would that be
fair?
Yep.
Yep.
I could see both going to the Dodgers. They both have strong Dodger ties. Urias obviously been a Dodger his whole career.
Max definitely does. Good point.
And Urias being Mexican and being a stud, he's like a superhero in Los Angeles. And then Fried, he's an LA kid, played on that sick rotation at Harvard Westlake High School with Lucas Giolito and Jack Flaherty. And I can see the Dodgers, who have been reluctant to spend money on starting pitching this year, and their rotation's kind of mid right now. I could see them shelling out and trying to get both of the top starters next year. What do you guys think?
Kershaw hasn't looked very good, so this could be his last year.
I was just going to say
right.
that.
Kershaw's been great.
And okay.
Isn't his ERA like
Kershaw looked great against the Mets, but the Dodgers have been teetering the past couple of years now with Kershaw on his future, right? We've continued to hear those rumblings about the Texas Rangers. I think that, especially in the scenario where Kershaw's tenure with the Dodgers maybe comes to an end, I think Max Fried is like the perfect heir apparent, if you will.
Wait, Kershaw's been their best pitcher this year. Urias has actually been getting shelled.
Go look at his game logs. I know it like it looks fun if you look at his ERA, but go look at it. They're not impressive at all.
Well, Chicago, he gave up 1 earned in 6. Shut the Mets out. 2 earned in 6 to San Fran. Opening day against the D-backs, 1 earned in 6. And then he had the 1 loss to Arizona, where he gave up 4 in 6. So he's gone 6 innings every start. 4 quality starts out of his 5, and 4 starts of 2 earned or less in 6+.
What I've watched has not been the kind of pitcher even he's been the last 2 years. So,
I mean, I like everything I've seen. He's even striking guys out. And he hasn't been a strikeout guy recently. He's got 2 games with 9 punchies. Yeah, I don't know. I'll defend Kershaw. I really like what I've seen this year out of him. Dustin May has been hit. Urias, his last few starts has been out.
May always gets hit. I don't know what his deal is.
I'm telling you, there's something about May being as nasty as he is that I think it's causing him to miss some location. And obviously with the type of velo that he has too, well, he's getting barreled hard. We saw that with the Mets. It was a little evident there.
Yeah, I could see the Dodgers making a play on both Urias and Max Fried.
I think for Max Fried, Padres legend, one of the many stars that they initially had in their organization. Trey Turner too, Anthony
Especially
Rizzo.
If the Mets beat him out on Ohtani, I could see the Dodgers going all in because, I mean, you're going to get realistically Urias and Fried combined will still be cheaper than Ohtani.
Yeah.
So I could see the Dodgers going all in, even overpaying those guys a bit because they'd be cheaper than Ohtani.
Justin Verlander is complete on his day through 69 pitches, which is always nice. I'm going to see if I can find his line
4
here.
2/3.
Is that what we got?
I should have the box score right here. Let me just refresh it. Yeah, well, I have the game on, so he just got pulled.
Oh, yep, I got it. You have it?
4 2/3, 6 punchies, 2 hits, a walk.
Yep.
I mean,
fastball was up to 95, and curveball looked great. Love to see
the curveball did look great. They didn't have the velo on the TV, so I couldn't see what he was clocking at. How many strikes? Yeah, 52 strikes. That's what Verlander does. He's efficient as hell. 17 balls.
That's awesome. Exactly what you want from him in his rehab start before making his Mets debut.
His next rehab start.
Yeah. Josh Daniels with the $5 donation earlier. Appreciate that, Josh. For you guys that don't know, Josh has been a supporter here on the channel for a long time, and I love it because he's in a split household. His wife is a diehard Mets fan, and he's a diehard Braves fan. So whoever performs better this weekend is going to, that winning team, that fan is going to be sleeping on the couch. So I don't know if that's going to be Josh or that's going to be his wife, but he says, Wardy, friend, enemy, it's still early, but already got the spare cotton blankets ready. He's ready to sleep on the couch is what he's saying. Going to be a long weekend. Good luck as always. Respect. Appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. And good luck in that household. Hopefully you're the one not sleeping on the couch this weekend, but I guess we'll see. Are there any other comments that we want to get in here before we wrap things up? I'm just really excited for this series. It doesn't have the same juice, I would say, as it does when it's, as we get later into the season. The series gives me a lot of vibes as what we saw last year between these two teams. Their first
Rick, is he like throwing Legos at the wall? What's going on back there?
I'm not. I played the fifth.
I mean, I was doing the same thing 2 nights ago watching the Mets,
I'm sure you were.
Down. Yeah, I was throwing shit against the wall, too.
Yeah.
Literal shit.
It looks like you were doing something with that hair last night, too. I don't know what you were doing with it. But
yeah, I don't know. Someone was running their hands through it. Left a good taste in someone's mouth. I don't know.
There we go.
Where's that damn Dole Whip sponsor? Come on.
Had to get it in there at least once.
Every episode.
Every episode. Yeah, no, what I was saying about the Braves series is, if you guys recall, the first time these teams matched up last year was either, I want to say, late April or early May, and then it is split at Citi Field. It was not good weather that weekend either. I'm pretty sure it was very similar weather. Like, it was cold, a little rainy, and the Mets split that series, including a doubleheader that took part. So I'm seeing a lot of similarities from that, and like I said, I will happily take the split, but if the Mets can pull 3 out of 4 against this Braves team with how the rotation's shaping up right now, I mean, they're going to come out like a bandit with these W's.
That'd be a miracle.
That would be a miracle.
That'd be a freaking miracle.
It would be awesome. Tonight's most likely rain out too. I'm looking at the forecast. It's only 30-40% in Flushing for like the rest of the night, starting at 7 or 8.
I think they'll be all right for tonight.
I think so too.
They should at least be able to get 5 or 6 in, if nothing else.
It looks great outside right now.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
funny, sunny guy,
sunny and 69 in LA.
yeah, Met fan in California. Look at that.
We get it, Joe. Yeah, no, I think that's good.
You've lived in California way longer than I have in my life.
That's true. Sure.
How many years were you out here total?
Lived in California for 3 off seasons and for parts of. I mean, I played out there for 4 years, 5 years. 5 years.
Minors and bigs, or just with Oakland?
Yeah, minors, big
Hey,
leagues,
what,
and then
teams
even
back
off season. My wife, family's out there. We lived out there for a couple years.
Right. Where's their is there AAA Sacramento?
A's was. Now they're in Vegas, but they were in Sacramento when I was there.
Gotcha. See,
Okay.
that's what a AAA team should be. Like a quick call, 30-minute Uber, they're there. Or I don't know, 30
Great.
minutes.
It was the best.
By far.
About an hour. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, not Vegas to
Unbelievable. I can't
Joe.
believe the Mets managed to pull that off for as long as they did to begin with. They were the only team to have a AAA club that far distance, if I'm not mistaken. Like, Mets were number 1.
It was just the round robin that happens sometimes in the minor leagues. Like,
Yep.
people get dropped, teams get dropped, and then they look for others, and you just go in a circle. And it was literally like the last place left, and the Mets got stuck there.
Thank God the Mets had Norfolk for so many years. That was great. If they didn't, I mean, there's a real chance that they don't end up with David Wright. If they didn't have Norfolk, if they didn't have so many people within the organization down there scouting them.
Wow, that's a
Wasn't
great
Wright-
point.
Wright was on that team with, it was a travel team.
Kadire.
Zimmerman. Was Kadire on the team? Because I know he was older.
Oh, he's just in the area, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I know that they had a relationship, but Kadire was
Yep.
older. It was Ryan Zimmerman, David Wright, and I want to say BJ Upton, and I think their bat boy was Justin Upton, the younger brother. It was like
Not
a
bad.
sick baseball area. Yeah.
Not bad.
That's dope. One final thing I want to share with you guys too. Not that it means much. Depends on certain Mets fans, but I'm pretty sure tonight is the first blackout at Citi Field this season, and I'm a huge lover of the black jerseys. We haven't seen it yet for the Friday night.
You're rocking it. You're ready.
Oh, I'm locked in and ready. I'm wearing the Scherzer shirt too, so I'm a little ahead of schedule. But yeah, I love seeing them in that unis. And Rec, just briefly, what's your thoughts on the black jerseys? I don't think we've asked you about that before.
No, I like them. I think it represents such a cool time in Mets history. Like, I'm not a huge historian of baseball in general, but especially the Mets. Being in the organization, I learned a lot. I didn't know much at all, even though my best friend growing up was a Mets fan. I learned a lot. But when I think of the Mets and like the glory days that I remember from my childhood, if you will, it was those teams that wore the black jersey. And I would like that actually sparks it, because I was a Yankees hater growing up. So like I was rooting for the Mets in those series, and they were wearing the black jerseys. And so, yeah, I like them. I love the idea of the blackout. I've always been supportive of that. I never understood why they kind of let them go, but I'm glad that they're back.
I agree. There's only one jersey that I wish the Mets still kept in their rotation that they didn't. Like, I don't know about you, I'm not as much of a lover for the blue homes as I am the blue roads.
With the gray, with the gray,
the blue with the gray shadow.
They should have kept
awesome.
that. That's the Anthony Record jersey I have is blue with the gray.
There you go. Yeah.
Shut up, you.
I
like orange jerseys. What happened to the orange jerseys?
What, the Los Mets?
Yeah, wasn't that the Spanish Heritage Night?
We even had just regular. One year, I think we had an orange Mets jersey like that we wore on Friday nights.
Oh, like an NFL color rush.
The Mets are probably
Pretty
going
dope.
to get a City Connect jersey next year.
I like them.
So I wonder if they're going to go the
How have they
orange
not
route.
had one yet?
I know.
How do you wait on the Mets this long, like a New York team?
I think it might be in hand
Can't
because
figure it out.
they like just
Only the
unveiled
biggest
black
market in the
jerseys.
country.
I-
So, yeah,
I'm
the
interested
black
to see what they do. Because they haven't done the Yankees yet either, right?
No.
They'll probably do them together. I bet they do
The
them
Yankees
together.
ones are gonna be lame as shit. I'm already calling it. It's gonna there's gonna be.
What can
there's
you
no
do
way.
with a uniform that's never changed since, I don't know, 18 whatever?
I saw an idea for the Mets. It was like a green one, like Statue of Liberty themed, and it made me want to throw up. It was disgusting.
No.
Yeah.
No,
I was thinking maybe candy apple red.
For the home run apple?
I mean, I don't like it, but I just thought it with the big apple, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, just don't like Boston's are what, like yellow? Like stop
as odd as Boston's are, there's at least heritage behind that. It wasn't like
Yeah.
they just
And
pulled
they're
those colors
awesome
out of
too.
their ass.
They're like,
really?
those
I
are
don't
pretty.
like them.
Oh, I love them.
I think they're cool. I don't mind.
I love
them.
Yeah, I just feel like the team color should be incorporated. I don't know. Like the Mets should have, like, I'd love a bright orange, but the black ones are so necessary, like, to be back, because to your point, you think of those teams, Piazza wearing the black jersey home. I mean, that was my Halloween costume, like 3 straight years was Mike Piazza with the black jersey.
San Diego's make no sense. They look like Miami.
Yeah. I don't know.
Very confusing.
All right, boys. We good?
Let's do it. Let's do it again after the weekend.
After
Boom.
the weekend. All right, big series recap coming next week, and then we're going to be previewing that upcoming matchup against the minor league affiliate. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Detroit Tigers, Joe. That is correct. And just
Probably go, what,
making
Monday
his
night?
debut.
Be back on?
Monday night. It depends on the scheduling for them. I don't think they're going to do a doubleheader, but if they do a doubleheader Monday night, then maybe you need to push.
They'll do a straight doubleheader probably because the Braves are going to Miami, the Mets are going to Detroit, so they'll do a straight doubleheader.
Either Monday night or, I mean, if this weekend goes bad, maybe we do a watch party for Verlander's debut.
There you go.
Ooh, for Detroit.
Yeah, like a live watch party when Verlander's on the bump.
I kind of like the sound of that, actually. Yeah.
Maybe we'll tweet that out. Maybe we'll give the fan base an option: Monday night or Verlander watch party.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Watch the game on mute with your favorite trio of Mets broadcasters, obviously.
Exactly. And Rec does have experience in the booth, so I mean, shit, he carried the way on that front. All right.
And I've got experience doing a lot of things Keith did in the '80s, so we'll be fine.
All right, guys.